Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondial. You're watching the Urban Debate here on Mirror Now. 48 hours after flash floods swallowed Nepal, the debris is settling and the real scale of death and devastation is now becoming clearer. 289 people, ladies and gentlemen, are confirmed dead. At least 1,400 are missing. Amongst them, 288 Indians. Many of those missing are pilgrims who were at the Nepal-China border when the glacial collapse in Tibet triggered devastation in Nepal. Many of the yatris were at the Tibet-Nepal checkpost in Gairong, from where they entered Tibet and trekked to Kailash Mansarovar. The Isha Foundation has confirmed that 77 of its members were at the Gairong Immigration Center when disaster struck. The Sadhguru, who is in the region, said search and rescue ops are on, but are facing multiple challenges, including a complete loss of connectivity.
And sense of pain and regret, I wish to bring to your notice that there has been a terrible flash flood between Tibet and Nepal border. And on the Nepali side, as per the Indian news reports, about 484 people have gone missing. And on this side, we don't have any official information. Morning I left to go there personally, and all phones are off, all telecommunications are down, roads are blocked, we're unable to go there. Looking at the scale of destruction, it looks bad. Within the hour, we informed all the embassies of these countries, both in India and Nepal, and we've been active in this, but there is really nothing much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the MEA this evening has confirmed that 288 Indian citizens remain uncontactable. These include 73 Indian nationals who are working on the Trishuli 1 power project. The MEA also confirms that 21 tourists from Tamil Nadu have been contacted and are fine.
As per information currently available, there are 288 Indian nationals who remain uncontactable. These include 73 Indian nationals who are working on Trishuli 1 power project. Our embassy in Kathmandu is in touch with the project head to get more details about these people. As you well understand, that communication lines in that area, they are totally disrupted, and therefore it has been difficult to get in touch with people on ground.
Meanwhile, India has sent in a second Air Force asset to Nepal, carrying 50 tons of relief, including medicines, food packets, temporary shelters, solar lamps, and hygiene kits as well. My colleague Kritika is on ground zero and sends us this report.
We're at the mid-air base in Kathmandu, where, of course, a lot of relief material has reached, and from here it's all being airlifted. Currently, we're on our way to the Trishuli space, the space where you've seen visuals of about how the market area there all completely inundated when yesterday the catastrophic floods took place. In fact, around us also you'll be able to see how a lot of relief material has been overall airlifted. We've seen toilet papers, essentials, like food items as well as clothing also being supplied. Now, Dhunshe as well as Trishuli are the two bases for the rescue and relief work. They lie on the Risua as well as the Trishuli belt, and currently we're just on our way to oversee how the rescue operations in fact are taking place, even as thousands of people continue to remain missing.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is now clarity emerging on what led to the Himalayan disaster in Nepal. We'll just put this visual full frame so that you can understand better what happened. These were 38 minutes of pure horror, and they started high up in the mountains of Tibet. Now, this is where a massive chunk of ice and rock broke off from a glacier about 20 kilometers from the Rasuvagadi border. The tumbling mass pulverized into water and debris that blocked the Lende Khola river valley, forming a temporary dam. It dammed the river essentially. But that was breached, and that then sent a powerful flash flood downstream and completely overwhelmed the Gairong border crossing. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where the Kailash Mansarovar Yatris were. The high-speed torrent surged directly into Nepal's Rasuwa district. Water levels along the Trishuli river system spiked by up to 9 meters, that is 30 feet, in just 30 minutes, wiping out monitoring stations, roads, bridges. Essentially, it swallowed everything that came in its path. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, India is on high alert. Bihar and Uttar Pradesh have prepared for all kinds of contingencies if the deadly flood gushes into India as well. 9 NDRF teams have been deployed in addition to already stationed teams in the region. Let's tell you how the flood waters can enter India. The Trishuli River in Nepal has swelled amidst the raging floods. Trishuli River flows through Devghat in Nepal and joins Valmiki Nagar Barrage in India's Bihar. Now, this is the most critical point. Let's now show you some of the most dreadful visuals that are coming from Nepal. To the NDRF IG Nagendra Bundela, and this is what he's telling us.
CWC is already monitoring the discharge flow in Gandak River. As per the ground report, there has not been any adverse report so far. But yes, CWC is monitoring. Our teams at the state is monitoring strongly. Keeping in mind the incident which had happened yesterday in Nepal. So East Champaran and Muzaffarpur, we have deployed the 2 additional teams.
Let me go straight across to our guests who are joining us on the broadcast. Professor Anil Gupta is lead at the ICARS at IIT Roorkee. This is the national disaster. He's also a national disaster management expert. Professor Anjal Prakash, thank you very much. Indian School of Business. He's a water and climate expert. Anand Sharma is a former additional director general of the Indian Med Department. He's joining us on the broadcast. And Vinod Sharma is the VC of the SDMA in Sikkim. He's joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Sharma, can I come to you first and ask you, as someone who has handled many such situations in your lifetime, can I ask you what right now is the biggest challenge for those who are involved in relief and rescue in Nepal?
See, I don't involve in rescue, and that is the job of
Correct.
NDMA and NDRF.
Correct. Huh.
A man who does early warning and give forecast for such kind of events. So if you want, I can explain what happened actually.
Yes, actually, you lead me to a very pertinent point that is being asked, Mr. Sharma. Where was the early warning? Because in 13 months, this is the second similar incident that we have seen in the region. So there are people who are saying, did Nepal not have an early warning system? The second question that is coming is that this glacial collapse that we are showing our viewers on our screens actually happens in Tibet, which is in China. Now, if it has happened in Tibet, did the Chinese not warn the Nepalese? So what could have possibly gone wrong?
Yeah, I think first thing is that lack of early warning system. And second, I heard from the news that it is the Nepalese people who came to know from the damages and Chinese didn't know about it. And there is another theory. If the Chinese, they have the technology, had they known, they should have informed the Nepalese government. That is why what we need is, one is early warning system, second is transboundary coordination. So I think both these things were missing. So either Chinese didn't know, or if they knew, why didn't they inform the Nepalese people? But thing is this, we are talking of this sort of disaster at a big chunk of avalanche which fell from 17,000 feet down to 13,000 feet. And it happens very fast. And then immediately it came to the border area. So hardly it gives you 15 to 20 minutes. But sometimes even 15 to 20 minutes are enough. If Chinese tell Nepalese people in advance, then many lives can be saved. But it didn't happen. So that means there is a lack of early warning. Second, lack of transboundary coordination. And third, maybe once this kind of event happens, your electricity also goes. I think about 10 of their hydroelectric stations have gone.
13, actually.
Yeah, so all these things were lacking. So what I suggest here is, what we need is early warning system in place, transboundary coordination, and third is all-weather communication system. These days we can have community radios where we have such kind of radios which doesn't need electricity, it doesn't need batteries, there's a handle behind it, you just wind it for 60 minutes, run for 1 hour, and it has also a tone alert mechanism. That
Okay.
means you can open it, start listening, and you can save your lives. And there is no siren system, I believe, there. Otherwise, they could have played siren also and people would have got alerted. All this was missing.
Okay, can I just get in Vinod Sharma ji? Vinod Sharma ji, thank you very much for your time here. I think we got both the Sharmas a little mixed up. But the original question was actually aimed at you and not at Anand Sharma ji. Anyhow, no problem.
Okay.
This is live television and things like this happen. I'm sure we are all forgiven. Vinod Sharma ji, as I said, someone who's looked at disasters like this closely, right now, sir, what is the number one challenge for people who are involved in relief and rescue? And in the case of Nepal, it is primarily their armed forces. I ask you this question because we've heard from the Sadhguru. He has some 77, yatris who were with him who are now missing. And he's saying that there is no communication. We want to go look for our people, but we simply can't. There is nothing we can do at this point.
Actually, initially, what we are seeing since yesterday, that the disaster happened in Tibet basically, and in case they give information, as my friend was just mentioning, that in case this information come to Nepal in time, then definitely, 30-40 minutes are good enough. And from 2015, when earthquake happened in Nepal, Nepal has progressed a lot, in disaster risk reduction. And in last 10 years, they have done remarkable job. Now they have a Nepal Disaster Risk Reduction Authority, which is headed by Dr. Upriti. And Dr. Upriti is a very, very knowledgeable person, though he joined last month. But he is very knowledgeable person. In case this information came to Nepal at right time, definitely hundreds of people would have been saved. Because they have very good communication between the communities. And this community communication is very important in hilly areas. Actually, GLOF, which you have very rightly explained, that now the things are coming up very clearly, that there was an earthquake which triggers, the avalanche, which caused this glacial lake outburst. So all these things, because China, we are not getting anything.
Exactly.
China is one country which is not revealing anything, to anybody.
The only thing that we know from the Chinese side, and let me get in Professor Anjal Prakash as well, and we'll try and fix your audio, sir, because your audio seems like you're in the middle of a storm yourself. So let's just see, Mr. Vinod Sharma, if we can fix your audio. But Professor Anjal Prakash, that is absolutely true. Now, yesterday, the Foreign Minister of Nepal has told Parliament that there has been huge damage, not just in Nepal, but in China as well. In China, we do not. And we also know that Xi Jinping has ordered, rescue and relief at a major scale, etc. But the number of people dead, those missing, nothing is coming out of China as is expected. That is what we expect from China. You don't expect any information to trickle down from there, right? That is the country they are, extremely secretive. But Professor Anjal Prakash, it is no secret that this region that we are talking about is prone to flash floods like this, right?
Exactly the point.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
So exactly the point. Yes, thank you so much, Priya. So exactly the point I'm saying, that first is that this kind of a disaster which is happening, especially Glacier Lake, glacier avalanche, if I can call this, this is something which gives you very short time for response, right? And then most of the time what happens that the glaciers are high up in our Himalaya, about 5,000 to 7,000 meters above. And there, the activities which is happening, small seismic activities or otherwise small break in the glacier lake that is there, or a portion of glacier that gets broken from the larger part because of global warming or global heating that we're talking now. Because of that, the things it leads to is a glacier avalanche. And the time for us, because we are not monitoring that closely as we should have monitored, this is where it is happening. So that's number one. The second point, which is coming out also from this group, is also about the regional cooperation. Definitely, we would need much more data-sensitive kind of a monitoring, also a sharing of data among the countries. which is not happening. China is definitely there, but we also have other 7 countries, starting from Afghanistan all the way to Myanmar, all across the Himalayan region, where this kind of information is needed. Third point, Shreya, is also about we are looking at the way in which these the frequency and the kind of the look at the kind of images that is coming. This kind of images, the intensity of this is increasing day by day. So what we have seen in Chamoli disaster is a limited one. This is like 4 times more than what we have seen in Chamoli. And this is going to be, and the 1973 report, which is where 2023 report puts the halt of the debate, saying these are all climate-related events. We must take care of that, and that's where we also have to start discussing on how do we take this forward. And that's where most of the problem lies, because this is not going to be stopping now. This is a wake-up call for us. Thought tomorrow, day after tomorrow is going to be much more devastating what we'll see now.
Can I ask you this? As far as I know, the big glacial lakes around mountain regions are monitored by satellites, right? Just so that we know the scale at which they are melting and the sort of damage that can be caused. If that is the case, was this glacial lake that broke off, or this big piece of ice that broke off, how is it possible that this was not being monitored?
Very good question, Shreya. And I want to, with this answering this question also for your viewers to know, there are 25,000 such blocks being recorded all across Hindu Kush Himalayan region. Out of that, 100 plus these glacial lakes are actually in a very, very highly critical zone, which scientists have already said that this needs to be monitored. Now, the problem is about exactly what you're saying, is that how do we monitor, how do we share data, and how much and this is satellite imagery. It's not very, very difficult for us to keep monitoring this one, but there are a number of these glacial lakes which are not being monitored, even after scientists telling us that these are very critical lakes which we have to be looking at. That's number one. The number two is also about countries. For example, Nepal may not have the resources to monitor, but China definitely has. India definitely has. So need to share this information despite the differences that we all may have with each other. That's where, because this is the disaster which is common. Today is striking you, tomorrow it will strike us. We need to be clear on this part, at least the minimum level in which we have to share the information, which is not happening.
So essentially what you're telling me, Anjal Prakash, is this, that there are 25,000 such glacial lakes in the entire Hindu Kush region. 100 of them are critical. They could burst anytime. They could melt anytime. Scientists have told governments across the world that these need to be monitored. And they are not being monitored. So that is something that is definitely worrying.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying they're not being monitored. What I'm saying is that scientific reports are already out there. Most of these glaciers should have been monitored. We do not know, because these are monitoring is something which is government's responsibility.
Because if they were being monitored, then I'm assuming that 10 days ago, we would have known that something like this is going to be happening, or 20 days ago maybe?
A small development, say for example, a crack being there. Yeah, I'm saying a small development or crack happening in the glacier.
We'll try and fix your audio. We'll try and fix your audio, because I think I've lost your audio. Professor Anil Gupta, can you come in here? If, this lake, we are saying there was a glacial collapse. I'm assuming glaciers, especially the ones that are critical, are being monitored or should be monitored. If it was being monitored, Professor Anil Gupta, then we would have known what, 10 days, 20 days in advance about what is going to happen? That would have saved every single life then downstream. Sir, will you unmute yourself, please, sir?
Yeah, so certainly this kind of early warning systems are not available. We have the early warning systems that can tell maybe 20-30 minutes in advance. But if we look at the terrain, a 30 minutes or 40 minutes advance warning can certainly help only to a limited extent. But yes, certain infrastructure, certain people can really be self-rescue. But at the time when this tragedy has happened, so early morning when people are, and now the kind of buildings which are coming, now you see the 4-5 story buildings on those difficult locations. Even if you give 15-20 minutes warning, do we really think that it can really make a big change? So this is one question. Second thing, that what Dr. Anjal and Dr. Sharma, both Professor Sharmas were telling. One thing is most important, that real-time early warning, real-time monitoring. So I think that's very important, because see, these things usually take place in a very, very short notice, because something what goes beneath the ice surface. Because past 2 months, we have seen that the average temperature has been usually little higher in the entire region, and in that area also. And what actually went inside the frozen area on the surface, but within that. So this is one point. And that may be a trigger point for the snow avalanche also, because now we all agreeing, most of the people are agreeing that it was triggered by a snow avalanche. But what is the reason for a snow avalanche? Maybe a micro seismicity, maybe a local seismicity, maybe a internal landslide. So sometimes an internal landslide can also behave like a microseismic activity. So there may be so many possibilities. Only a detailed investigation and then combining all the facts will reveal it better. But as on date, we do not have a very good early warning system for these kind of catastrophic events. We have even preparedness for flash floods, landslides, but not for the large scale devastation taking place in a very, very short time. These are the challenges we have at present.
Vinod Sharma ji, and therefore I just come back to you. Anil Gupta ji has brought out a very important point. Can we just play that picture from Gairong? That's the visual that is going viral, right? Gairong is that transit point between China and Nepal, and this is where most of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatris who are traveling to Kailash Mansarovar via Kathmandu. This is the immigration center, right? No, this is not the picture. Can we just pull out the right picture? This is that huge, gigantic building. I mean, we're looking at that gigantic building, Mr. Vinod Sharma. I was looking at it yesterday, I was looking at it today, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, this is an ecologically sensitive area. And look at this monstrous building. It is not a, it's not a multi-story building. It's, this must be at least 100 stories. It's like it's like the palace of the Red King. And that has been built in a region as ecologically sensitive as this. The damage will compound itself.
That is immigration center, in China.
Yeah.
And you are right that it is about 12-storied building, which, yes, amazing that they're constructing this kind of thing. Let me explain you 2-3 things. One is about the lakes, glacial lakes. I think in India, I can talk about India, that we are monitoring each and every glacial lake. And I can tell you, I am vice chairman in Sikkim. We know that there are hundreds of glacial lakes, out of which about 17 lakes are vulnerable. We know that seven lakes are increasing with the, their volume has increased. And each lake, we had scientific expedition. We are putting up, sensors, and we are getting information that how much water is increasing in these lakes. So that in case, and we are doing corrective measures also. We are doing mock drills. So in case, because we don't know, that which lake and what will happen, so there may be avalanche, there may be landslide, there may be cloud burst, and in case something happen, then the only solution is that the information should come to the community and they can go to the safer places. As it has happened in 23. In Sikkim, we had this glow on 4th October 2023, and we could save more than 3,000 people, because of the early mock drills. The number of death was less than 3 figures. It was in 2 figures. So I think that was the remarkable thing which has happened in India, that such a big disaster, it was just like this. But we could save people, because at 12 o'clock in the night, when there was siren, people came to know that this is not mock drill. Now this is the real thing. and they came to the safer places, and we could save about more than 3,000 people from those villages.
Okay.
So I think that is the only solution. The community should be involved, mock drills should be there, preparedness plan should be there.
Okay.
And very rightly said that it is a matter of international cooperation.
But
unless and until we get information from these countries, I think we cannot do anything.
Professor
Nepal
Anjal
could have done much better
Correct.
in case they get information at right time.
Correct. Professor Anjal Prakash, therefore, a national disaster is not just a national disaster for Tibet or China or for Nepal. The fact is that floodwaters have entered India as well. Thankfully, we've not seen the sort of damage that has been seen in Nepal or in Tibet. But it could very well have been, right? The point is that China doesn't want Nepal, Nepal doesn't want India, and all of us are in a soup. So there's no point India, for example, monitoring its glacial lakes via satellite if other countries, if other neighboring countries, Himalayan countries are not doing it. Because they are hit with disaster, we'll be hit with disaster.
So there is this regional, institution which is which is the EC mode is there, where I have worked before, International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, and this is something which is all the countries, 8 countries, have brought in together. But the kind of resources that is needed to monitor, and if you look at the new events that are happening, that is something beyond sometimes scientific capacities of individual institutions. And that's why I'm saying that we, ISRO is there in India. China is one of the best systems in the world. Pakistanis are doing it. Nepalis are doing it. We have to build this all together. To some level, it is happening, but because of a lot of these things get stalled because of the regional non-cooperation, because of the politics of the day which is also happening. That's where the problem also lies. Now, this is a wake-up call for us to again come together, forget all the things that is there, because we have to save our own people. Look at the disaster and the kind of visual that we are seeing. This is unprecedented. I have never seen this kind of a disaster in glacial avalanche has so far before, right? Chamoli disaster happened, all other in Sikkim also has happened, but this kind of image is something that is not seen. And this is going to, as the IPCC reports are predicting, IPCC's own report have been predicting that this is going to be, frequency is going to increase, the intensity is going to increase, the devastation is going to be much more than what we have now. And that's where we need to have much more stronger monitoring and sharing of information. And that is where the crux lies, that if we come across any, through our own monitoring of Chinese glaciers, we should inform them immediately. Likewise, they should tell us. Likewise, Nepal, and this is where, and the countries, there are smaller countries there who do not have the resources. There we have to have a joint monitoring program where we can bring everybody together.
Anand Sharma ji, is that the lesson India should be learning as we see these pictures of devastation coming?
The only thing we have is there should be proper land use planning. They should not allow people to construct and live in vulnerable areas. And if you see all the construction, that is almost next to the river. And water has a memory. It will take its land back. And especially when you are in the complex terrain at high altitudes, flash floods are a common hazard. And this kind of hazard, it gives you only 15 to 30 minutes to predict. That too when you have an excellent communication system. So you will have to work on it, one. And second thing, people should start factoring weather and climate information into their day-to-day planning, especially when they are going to such a high altitude, vulnerable areas.
Anand Sharma ji, the fact is, how do they know? Surely you don't think I can check on AccuWeather what the weather conditions are going to be in Tibet if I'm going to Tibet.
Right. So see, what is more important is that first thing is that India should have a 24/7 all weather channel. One. Second thing is all TV channels, it should be mandatory that if there is going to be a vulnerable weather, disastrous weather, they should put those warnings in the scrollers.
Correct.
So that, and it should be mandatory for all the TV channels. Otherwise, what happens is I may be watching your channel, I may not be watching our channel, and your channel maybe have some other important news. So it should be mandatory. Thirdly, as I said, community radios. So that, and we have, NDMA, they are doing excellent coordination work. So I think we need to strengthen on many, many fronts if we have to be successful.
But
and
Anand
save
Sharma
lives.
ji, TV channels though will put this information if the governments and people monitoring, weather patterns know what is going to happen. In this case, everyone was caught unawares. A TV channel को कहाँ से पता चलेगा जब चाइना को नहीं पता, नेपाल को नहीं पता?
Definitely, that's what I'm saying. See, because there is no early warning system in place. That's what I said in the beginning. There should be early warning system. There should be observation points. None of the observation points are there. There is no early warning system. There is no communication system. There is no transboundary cooperation. So everything is missing. And then you are allowing thousands and thousands of people to travel in this complex terrain, which is "Aap bail mujhe maar" kind of situation.
Shreya, I want to bring in one more point that you have mentioned, if I'm allowed.
Yeah, go
Just
ahead.
one
please.
point.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the infrastructure development, the rampant infrastructure development which is happening, not only this entire region is going through that one, and what we are in climate parallels, we're talking about climate resilient infrastructure. That means we have to put in 4 to 5 times more money to build infrastructure which lasts some of these extreme events, which is not happening. The planning has to happen at a bioregional scale so that we understand what is coming today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and we plan it in advance. That is where we actually absolutely lacking in building, and we are rampantly building infrastructure which actually obstructs some of the water resources, some of the local reality in mind, and that's where we also have to bring in. You brought this point, so I thought I'll just explain this further.
Look, Professor Anjan, I'll tell you one thing. I come from the hills, right? I'm from Uttarakhand. It's not like people are unaware in my state or any hill state what constructing a house next to a river means. All of us have, we've seen the Himalayan tsunami. We've seen disaster. We know exactly what happens when you build on the riverbed. Yet, you build on the riverbed and you're allowed to build on the riverbed, even if it is against the law. Why? Because I can pay 10,000 rupees ka bribe, and the official who is in charge of ensuring that nothing gets built on a riverbed will look the other way. Yes. So the problem, Professor Anil Gupta, in this country also is, and I'm sure since it's Asia itself, in Nepal as well, is rampant corruption that allows people to build on the riverbed, and therefore the scale of damage is much, much more. For example, if you look at the pictures that are coming in, not this particular picture, but you have a picture, where the river is hurtling down and you have such dense buildings on both sides of the river. Now, if these areas were sparsely populated or the buildings were further apart, or if the density of population wasn't as much as it is, just take a look at this picture. Yes, maybe the scale of damage would have been much less. More than 1,400 people are missing right now. And if after 48 hours they are missing, we know what that means.
You are true. In fact, that is the reason I say that when we are blaming all the time early warning system, in such cases I say that how much early. There are two types of early warnings. One is that we give 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or half an hour before, but this is an early warning many months before, many years before, because the monitoring systems are telling that the pressures are being built. Professor Sharma was telling about the seven big lakes where pressures are already mounting. And then if this kind of development is being allowed, and not only the private infrastructure, government infrastructure, power plants, the road infrastructure, everything we are putting in. So basically we are contributing to building the risk. We are expanding the risk. So this is also an issue that we should not ignore the long-term early warning also, correct, which is already known. So if there are other lakes, today they are not having any accident, but tomorrow it may have. So I think this should also be a lesson. And regarding cooperation, now we are blaming this country, that country. I think it should be a common agenda, because we are part of the common system. Hindu Kush Himalaya is a common system, and we all 8 countries share the benefits as well as the risk as well. So it is the common responsibilities to sit and have at least a common minimum program. Maybe there are certain reservations. We should understand and recognize the reservations. But saving people's lives, saving infrastructure should have no reservations. I think this is what is very much required.
Okay.
And yeah.
Go ahead, complete your point, sir.
Yeah, and I think if we talk to the nations independently, most of the nations agree to this. But a mechanism has to be promoted. That's very important.
I mean, my point is, Anand Sharma ji, how many disasters will it take?
Yes, so many examples are
We
there.
are not learning.
Uttarakhand was one disaster.
I said, in 2013, I was the one who gave the warning to the state government 3 days in advance for Kedarnath disaster. But the government did not act. In fact, it is a trend all over the countries, in developing countries especially, people sometimes get benefited by the disasters because there is a lot of relief after that. So I think we need to change our mindset, preparedness, early warning, and mitigation followed by resilient system.
Anandji, you're telling me something which I'm hearing for the first time, and therefore I'm just going to ask you to repeat it. You're telling me 3 days ahead of Kedarnath, one of the worst national disasters that this country has seen. You are telling me that you had given a warning 3 days prior to the Uttarakhand government, and they didn't react. They didn't bother to clear out people and tourists and pilgrims from that area.
Yes. It is all there. All my emails were sent to all the chief secretary, to the disaster management, DM, SP of that particular district. And this was the front page news in the daily newspapers of Dehradun and Uttarakhand. 3 days in advance on the front page, heavy rains, landslide, पहाड़ में ना जाने की सलाह, आनंद शर्मा, Nideshak Mausam Kendra Dehradun. It was a very clear-cut case. And that's why finally, what happened, finally, who has to go. You know that.
नहीं, आनंद जी, saying that पहाड़ों में बारिश होने वाली और landslides होने वाले हैं is very different from saying कि पहाड़ों में बहुत बड़ी आपदा आने वाली है, इसलिए वहां जाएं ही ना, red alert, etc., etc. Right? Because these warnings come in the hills every third day.
No. See, what I had said, please postpone the Char Dham Yatra by 3 to 4 days. And I consistently told the government, I called the SP, IG Intelligence, and I called him, I told him that you should tell the Chief Minister and Chief Secretary about this. And next day I called him, did you tell them? He said, yes, I have conveyed your message very clear. So everybody knew. And I was stressing time and again that this kind of event is going to happen because it's a vulnerable areas and most of the construction was in the floodplain, Rambada and all, which you have seen.
Yeah.
So it was a clear-cut bit. That is why the Chief Minister had to go after this disaster.
Vinod Sharma ji, here you were painting a very positive picture of India doing all the right things, etc. Here we have one live example of an ex-member of the IMD telling us that 3 days before Kedarnath warnings were given, but warnings were ignored. So,
100%.
Disaster management, it's a state subject. And I cannot say about Uttarakhand, but I can tell you now, at the present, after Sikkim, this GLOF, the Government of India has taken up a very big program, for GLOF mitigation. And in GLOF mitigation program, they are covering all the 12 states. They are doing capacity building. They are monitoring, they are asking them to monitor each and every lake. They are asking them to identify, hot spots, the most vulnerable lakes, and giving money. In case they don't have sensors there, they put sensors and put early warning systems so that in case you know something, then there can be evacuation in time. Because you cannot do much, in this kind of thing. You get very little time. The only thing is that you prepare community that in case it happen, then what should be done.
Okay.
And this Government of India is doing that. So I'm again asking the positive thing that India is leading in disaster risk reduction. But still there are states, let me finish. There are states which are not following, this kind of instruction. I'm saying that every state is doing like this. I have not seen. I've seen Sikkim. And in Sikkim, I can say I'm working there since last 13 years. And the way the state is working, it's remarkable. So you see their early warning system we have requested IMD by you put up, their tower and all these things. We give them place, we give them all facilities. So I think every state cannot be generalized.
No,
there may be one or two instances.
But there are
like
12
this, but
states in this country who should be watching what has happened in Nepal and in Tibet and thinking to ourselves, what do we do to ensure that this doesn't happen? Maybe you cannot, maybe you cannot stop an avalanche or a glacial melt. You cannot stop that. But what you can definitely do is to remove people and assets that will be coming in its path in case there is a flash flood. As we see these pictures, I hope India has learnt its lesson. I hope we don't see a disaster like this in India, but the fact is that this has happened in Nepal, this has happened in Tibet, but 288 Indians are missing. Kailash Mansarovar Yatris are missing. So when a national disaster strikes any part of the world, somehow we get impacted as well, and that is what is happening. I just hope and pray that all 288 Indians that we are talking about are safe. The Yatris are safe. We leave it there for the moment. Thank you all very much for joining us, Professor Gupta, Professor Prakash. Thank you very much to Vinod Sharma ji and Anand Sharma ji. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, a break. News and updates continue right here. Do stay with us.